Might come in.
Beck's still alive. He walked himself into camp.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're looking at 10 of the most unbelievable stories of miraculous survival.
Now, when you hear a story like that, you are not expecting that patient to survive. Absolutely not. Frankly, this girl should have been dead.
Number 10. Phineas Gage.
Phineas was a railroad worker in 1848 who had a nightmarish accident. A large iron rod was driven completely through his head.
On September 13, 1848, railroad worker Phineas Gage experienced one of the most famous accidents in medical history. While using an iron tamping rod to pack explosives, a premature detonation shot the 43-inch, 13-pound iron rod straight through his skull. At high speed, the heavy rod entered under Gage's cheekbone and exited straight out the top of his head.
Phineas Gage was able to survive, having a 3-foot 7-inch bar shot transcranially through his head.
Miraculously, Gage not only survived the blast, but was able to walk and talk immediately afterward, even regaling horrified bystanders with his tall tale. It remained touch and go for a while, but Gage made a miraculous recovery. Though his personality reportedly changed after the accident, his physical recovery astounded doctors at the time, proving that the brain could adapt even after catastrophic injury.
But his injury resulted in a complete change to his personality. So much so that friends that knew him started referring to him as no longer Gage.
Number 9. Roy Sullivan.
A single lightning strike carries a charge of several 100 million volts and has a peak current of around 20,000 amps, which is a lot. And while they say that lightning never strikes twice, it certainly did in the case of this park ranger.
Known as the human lightning rod, U.S. Park Ranger Roy Sullivan was struck by lightning not once, not twice, but a staggering 7 times between 1942 and 1977. Each strike left him with bad burns, but he somehow lived through every single one of them. Statistically, the odds of being struck by lightning on 7 separate occasions are astronomically, almost unfathomably small. The odds of him surviving every single one are even smaller than that.
You're brought up to know that lightning never strikes twice. It's that awful phrase. But here was living proof that you can be hit that many times. And more amazingly, I think, is to survive it.
Someone up there is looking out for him. Sullivan's resilience made him both a legend and a medical curiosity. And his story proves that he may have simultaneously been the luckiest and unluckiest man alive.
So Roy is very, very, very much deserving of his place in the Curious Casebook.
Number 8. Aron Ralston.
There was no way his pocket knife could slice through the bones, but if he could break them, maybe he'd have a chance. He would have to snap both of the bones in his arm to make it work.
We don't know about you, but if an 800-pound boulder pinned us to a canyon wall, we'd probably be done for. In 2003, Aron Ralston faced the unimaginable when a massive boulder pinned his arm while he was canyoneering in Utah's Blue John Canyon. Trapped for 5 days with little food and water, he realized that no rescue was coming.
You didn't tell anyone where you were going. Yeah, that's absolutely correct.
In a desperate act of survival, Ralston used a dull multi-tool to amputate his own arm, an almost unthinkable decision that required immense courage and pain tolerance. But that's not all. After freeing himself, Ralston rappelled down a 65-foot cliff and hiked for 7 miles before finally encountering help and rescue. That's just insane mental fortitude, and very few but Ralston could do it.
And then, boom, and I wasn't even attached anymore, and I fell down like this, and I was free.
Number 7. Tsutomu Yamaguchi.
29-year-old engineer Tsutomu Yamaguchi is walking to work when a blinding flash, brighter than the sun, fills the sky.
Imagine surviving an atomic bomb and then surviving another one just 3 days later. That's what happened to Tsutomu Yamaguchi, a Japanese engineer who was in Hiroshima when the first bomb dropped on August 6, 1945. While he was badly burned, deafened, and temporarily blinded by the bomb, Yamaguchi returned home to Nagasaki, just in time for the second bomb on August 9th.
So he gets on a train, travels 186 miles from Hiroshima to Nagasaki, and then for a second time, he sees this flash of light coming from an atomic detonation, the Nagasaki bomb.
Luckily, he escaped uninjured. Doctors credited his survival to the sheer luck of his positioning during each explosion, being about 3 kilometers away from ground zero on both occasions. While he suffered some lasting damage and his children suffered various health ailments, Yamaguchi lived a long and happy life, working for Mitsubishi and dying in 2010 at the age of 93.
Anyone who was in that type of a radius from an atomic bomb would experience anywhere from 95 to 98% chance of dying.
Number 6, Joe Simpson.
I took the decision pretty quickly, really. To me, it just seemed like the right thing to do under the circumstances.
Back in 1985, mountaineer Joe Simpson and his partner Simon Yates attempted to climb the Peruvian mountain Ciula Grande. But disaster struck when Simpson shattered his leg during the descent. With a horrible storm raging and with his own life at risk, Yates was forced to cut the rope holding Simpson, sending him plummeting into a deep crevice. Against all odds, Simpson survived the fall and crawled for 3 agonizing days back to base camp without food and consuming nothing but snow. And in a twist that would seem unlikely in a movie, he arrived literally just as Yates was preparing to leave. Simpson never blamed Yates for what he did, even saying that he would have done exactly the same thing.
I remember Simon grabbing my shoulders and holding me. I remember that feeling of being held.
Number 5, Beck Weathers.
Have you thought about the fact that that on that morning of the 12th, someone actually found you out there in the snow and gave you up for dead, thought you were gone?
Well, I didn't know that. And I would have to say that probably as cold and as frozen as I was, that I would look pretty dead.
From one doomed mountain climb to another, the Mount Everest disaster of May 1996 claimed 8 lives, but Beck Weathers wasn't one of them, though by all accounts he should have been. Caught in a brutal storm at the top of Everest, Weathers was left for dead after falling unconscious. He slept overnight in the dark and fatal cold, and in nothing but his climbing equipment. No tent, no sleeping bag, nothing. Incredibly, he woke and staggered into camp the next morning, despite severe frostbite, his face and hands black with damaged skin. Though he lost a number of limbs, including his right forearm, nose, and some fingers, Weathers pulled through, enduring conditions on Everest that no human should have endured.
Well, you are truly a blessed man, I think. Perhaps there was a guardian angel watching over you that night.
Well, I think there must have been.
Number 4, Juliane Koepcke.
The seatbelt squeezed my stomach and I couldn't breathe anymore. And in this moment I realized with absolute clarity what had happened to me. But I had no time to be afraid, because apparently I lost consciousness. I can still see the jungle beneath me, a deep green, like broccoli.
17-year-old Juliane Koepcke boarded Lanza Flight 508 on Christmas Eve 1971, a domestic flight between Lima and Iquitos, Peru. But Koepcke got the worst Christmas present of all time when lightning struck, destroying the aircraft and sending her plummeting 2 miles to the ground. Amazingly, she survived the fall, albeit with some bad injuries like a broken collarbone, a concussion, and a torn knee ligament.
When I came to, I realized pretty quickly what must have happened to me. I had crashed down in the middle of the jungle and the plane was gone. I tried to get up and could barely manage because my concussion must have been very severe.
But that wasn't the end of the story. All alone in the jungle, she hiked for over a week, following streams until she was found by some lumberjacks. Koepcke's miraculous survival is owed partly to her childhood knowledge of the rainforest, but also to sheer luck in surviving a fall that should have certainly been fatal.
The man who is assisted by relatives up the embankment of the river is Marcio Rivera. He's a lumberman and he worked in the area of Rio Shibonia. He was the one who found Juliane.
Number 3, Anna
And all of a sudden she broke through the ice. And and hit an ice ledge and went in under the ice ledge into the water.
Swedish radiologist Anna Bagenholm was skiing in Norway on May 20th, 1999, when she fell into a frozen stream. By the time she was pulled out, Bagenholm had been trapped under the ice for a staggering 80 minutes. At the time, her body temperature had dropped to just 56.7 degrees Fahrenheit, a level which absolutely should have killed her.
Normally, when your heart stops beating, death will inevitably follow a few hundred seconds later. By the time they called the rescue helicopter for Anna, her heart hadn't beaten for well over an hour and a half.
Miraculously, doctors managed to save her life, with the extreme hypothermia slowing her metabolism so much that her organs survived the lack of oxygen. To this day, Bagenholm remains one of the very few people to survive such fatally low body temperatures. She returned to work just 5 months after the accident and has suffered no lasting brain damage.
Slowly, the blood temperature increased. We had an echo probe down her esophagus. We saw the heart still standing like this, shivering a little bit, and suddenly...
Number 2. Anatoli Bugorski.
And the cellular damage begins to manifest. The bone marrow dies. The immune system fails. The organs and soft tissue begin to decompose. The arteries and veins spill open like sieves.
Imagine getting a proton beam straight to the head and living to tell the tale at cocktail parties. Soviet scientist Anatoli Bugorski doesn't have to imagine. In 1978, Bugorski was working on a particle accelerator when a proton beam measuring 300,000 roentgens passed straight through his noggin.
What does the dosimeter say? 3.6 Roentgen, but that's as high as the meter. 3.6. Not great, not terrible.
The beam entered the back of his skull and exited near his nose, delivering radiation doses hundreds of times the lethal level. He was a dead man walking, but against insurmountable odds, Bugorski survived the accident, completed his PhD, and went back to work on the same particle accelerator that injured him. He suffered deafness, periodic seizures, and a paralyzed face. But hey, that's a pretty good price to pay for taking a proton beam.
Within 3 days to 3 weeks, you're dead. That is what will happen to those boys.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into Settings and switch on your notifications. Number 1. Vesna Vulovic.
This is Vesna Vulovic. 50 years ago, she fell 33,333 feet from the sky.
At the top of our list is Serbian flight attendant Vesna Vulovic, who holds the Guinness World Record for surviving the highest fall without a parachute. On January 26, 1972, her plane exploded over Czechoslovakia, and she plummeted over 33,000 feet while trapped in the spiraling fuselage. Though she sustained severe injuries, including broken bones, skull fractures, and temporary paralysis, she miraculously survived. Officials typically attribute her survival to the fuselage landing in snow and heavy tree cover, thereby cushioning the landing. Vulovic humorously attributes it to Serbian stubbornness. Whatever it was, Vulovic's endurance wasn't just miraculous, it was unprecedented. Surviving a fall without a parachute from cruising altitude makes her story perhaps the ultimate example of surviving the unsurvivable.
Vesna Vulovic's story for me is just one of the most incredible survival stories, if in fact not the most impressive, that we have here at Guinness World Records.
How would you handle yourself in these conditions? Let us know in the comments below.